Greeting class. In this tutorial, I would like to kind of demo um, how we can write an array of objects. This is kind of going to be useful for you for your final project. Having said that, in this case, I'm using Visual Studio 2015, and so I'll go ahead and create a project, new project. So you should click, you just click on new project. It's going to bring up a new window. In this case, we're going to be using Windows 32 console application. Make sure your paths are correct and you give it an appropriate name. So, okay. Now, next, we're going to use empty project. I don't care about secure development lifecycle, so I'm going to uncheck that. Click finish. Good. So now the next step is we're going to right click on the source file and we're going to add new item, and we're going to select C++ file. So yeah, in here again, you can change the name if you would like to. All right. So now we have created our project, our source file. The next thing is here we're going to start typing our code. So our objective is to create an array of objects, which is very similar to your final project. In this case, you can use the same method to revise your code, but this is only going to show you how you go about creating an array of options. For this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and include my IO stream. So as you can see, the IDE is showing me that there's an error because of gosh, I missed. See, here we go. Now, the next thing I'm going to be using standard cout and using standard end of line. In this case, I only have a need for the cout end of line for this particular demonstration. But if you want to use additional standards and standard inputs, you can also include it in here. Next step, I'm going to go ahead and create a class. In this case, I'm going to name my class engine. And this is going to be a public type. And I'm going to give my class a member variable. So in this case, I'm going to say int number of cylinders. Next, I'm going to say int engine size. Next, I'm going to use a char type variable. Okay, so in this case, we have created a class of type engine, which has the member of variables, number of engine, number of cylinders, engine size, and type. Okay, next, what I'm going to do is we need to call our main function, which is required. See, so I'm going to give it a space. I can put a comma here too for ourselves, so we can distinguish where the main function starts or where it ends. So in here it says main function starts, and here we're going to say end of main function. Okay. Now our objective here is going to be to populate. I create an array of object and then populate its member. So I'm gonna, with that said, let's go ahead and create. We're gonna say engine, which is in a class. We're gonna create an object of that, and that's gonna be of type array. So this is my engine arrays, right? In this case, I'm gonna say 2. So this particular array is of type class engine, and it's gonna be only gonna have 2 cells. But you can go ahead and add, if you want 100, 200, or 3, 4, 5, you can do that as well. Now, the next thing that we need to do is we want to populate these cells, right? So in this case, I'm going to say my engine. So the the array always starts at 0. So in this case, if I put period, as you can see, it just depicts all the member variables. In this case, I'm going to say engine size, and I'm going to say, let's see, I will say 400 horsepower, for instance, right? Next, I will say engine. Again, my engine arrays. Still going to be a cell 0. In this case, number of cylinders, I would say 4. Next, my engine arrays, 0, still we're at cell 0. And here we're going to enter the type. So I'm going to say S. I mean, for instance, for our sake, we're going to say it's a straight engine. All right. So the next step is now we have to go ahead and populate cell number 1, right? We did cell number 2 members variables. Now we're going to do the next one. We're going to say my engine arrays again. 1. Engine size. In this case, I will say 200 horsepower. And I do the same thing with this. My engine arrays. 1. Number of cylinders. This one we're going to say, let's say 6. And my engine array again. Cell 1. Type. We're going to say it's a V. All right. So now in this case, we have populated our arrays that start from 0 and 1. And then member variables were populated. As you can see, number 0, cell number 0. And we have engine size, number of cylinders, type, and then we did the same thing with number 1, cell number 1. So now our next step is to go ahead and display the results on the screen. So what we can do here is we can say cout, right? We can say here the size of engine is, right? And here what we can do is we say my engine arrays 0 size, right? Engine size. and then end of line. So it seems that's still complaining. So basically, I think we need to put double quote, not single quote. Okay, now it's better. So we're going to do the same thing for the next one. Cout. The number of cylinders per column. So my engine arrays seal cells 0. In this case, we're going to use this number variable, and we're going to type end of line. And finally, the last one, say, the engine type is here we need to, again, we're going to call our array, my engine array, and we're going to put the type there, end of line. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and review this. So what we have done is we declare a class, a sample class called engine. We give it a number of variables, and then we create an object of this class of type that is a type arrays with 2 cells, and so each cells are populated with member variables of this class. So we have 0, for instance, engine size 400, and we populated, and we did the same thing with 1. And then the next thing we had to do is to display the results. We just use the cout and printed the result on the screen. So now let's go ahead and run this first. F5. It's compiling and linking. So it displays the results really fast. So now what I'm going to do is we need to put another command here, which is called pause. That should pause the result on the screen so we can see it. Let's go ahead and, okay, now we have an error there, which is good. So we're going to say no. The error here is that we forgot to put a semicolon, which is required all the time. We need to put that. That's in a habit. Otherwise, we're going to get errors. So let's go do F5 again. Because you can see it just displays the results on the screen for us. So if I click continue, let's move on to the next code. So as you can see, we have a problem here. It just displays 00, cell number 0, but not 1. So for that, we have to do the same thing, type it again and again. But imagine that you have 100 of this, cells, and then how are we going to do it? Are we going to type each of them? So it's not a good solution. So that's why we're going to use create a member function first of all to display the result for us, and also we're going to make use of an array. I'm sorry, for loop statement. So the first thing we need to do is go ahead and convert that to the statement to a member function value, a member function called display. So we're going to say void display. It's not receiving any values. Semicolon. We're going to expand this so we can. The next thing is we're going to just copy all this. Make to make our life easier, we're going to say cut. I'm just going to place it inside the function. Paste. Okay, so we have that. Now we have to do something here. We need to get rid of these arrays. And we won't just have the member variables there, because that's within the class. So there's no need to do that, okay? So this is part of one class and has a function as well, okay? So now we have a function here called display. It's a void. It does not receive any variables. It just displays the member variables, okay? Now our next step will be to create an array. I'm sorry, a for loop statement, so we can display the results on the screen for us. So we're going to make use of for loop statement. We'll say is int I equals 0. We have to initialize it, semicolon. Then we're going to say I greater than 2, and then I plus plus. Again, always put bracket, open brackets, close brackets, so this way at least you can couple your code and it's easy to read. So in this case, we need to display the result of the object. So what we need to do here is to call my engine arrays, and here we're going to, instead of 0, 1, we're going to put the variable I, right, period, display. As you can see, it automatically displays the function for us, so we can select it. And then we're going to put the open bracket, open parentheses and close parentheses. And so that will do it for this case. So let's kind of recap again. So what we have done is we create a new function that puts within the class member function. It's called member function. It's a void. It does not receive any variables. But then it also its objective is, its goal is just to print the result on the screen, which we made use of cout and end of line, which we declared earlier. The next thing we did, instead of typing all these values manually on the screen to print the results, what we did is we made use of the for loop statements, right? So in this case, we initialize it. This is the syntax, and always put the bracket so it's easier to read. It starts at 0, and it's less than, if the result is greater than 2, the loop stops and exits the loop. And here we put our array. Instead of putting 0, 1, we just substitute 0, 1 by the variable I. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this. So we're going to click on F5, see if it's going to run or not. All right, good. So now we got the first one. As you can see, the result is depicting on the screen. Next. Right, so we're done. So this is the way you can go about creating array of objects, and then you can use a for loop statement to print results on the screen, and also make use of a function called member function called display to write all the member variables and to print it, and then you can call that again, just again and again within your loop. Now again, the beauty of function is that you can call it again and again without typing the output statement again and again on the screen. And also you can make use of for loop statement to make things easier for you instead of typing. So this is Visual Studio 2015, which is really neat. So if you can do 5 again, and also I want to show you something else that shows you the performance of your code as well. See how it's doing. And then so it's taking 1 megabyte basically. So that's kind of also interesting to see how your code performs. So this concludes the creation of array of objects, which is very useful for your final project. So you can, it's not exactly the same, but you can use the same technique to write your final project and make use of this. So I really encourage you to go ahead and play with this and write your own class, and maybe you can change the variables. Instead of 2, put 10 or 3, 4, and then trying to see if you can write a similar code, which will help you greatly. So I hope this kind of help you guys with your final project. Thank you.